Good day. My name's Wayne Duvenage. I'm from the organization Undoing Tax Abuse, and I'm going to give you an update now on our investigations and our project relating to INSETA. This is the insurance SETA. Now, what is the insurance SETA? Just a high level. There are 21 SETAs in the higher education department. They get a lot of funds from the skills development levies, and these funds are used to develop and upskill the youth largely in the country through various industries. And the insurance SETA gets about 600 to 750 million rand a year to do this work. It's supposed to be good work. The question we have when we investigate and look into these various SETAs, and it's not just INSETA, there are a number of them that have some serious problems of maladministration, corruption that is happening. And so I'm just focusing here on INSETA, and then we will go into an interview which I did a couple of weeks ago with Dr Kershen Pillay of GIFS, the Graduate Institute of Financial Sciences, who has really had a torrid time in their dealings with INSETA. But we'll get to that shortly. So let me just explain to you what we've uncovered and what we're questioning, what is actually happening at INSETA. The insurance SETA has had 3 qualified audits in the last 3 years. So for 3 years in a row, qualified audits by the Auditor General. This is a serious issue if you are not managing your finances properly. If you're managing your finances properly and your financial hygiene is all in place, your good governance, you don't get qualified audits. Well, that's not the case at INSETA. But let me tell you about some of the questions we've got, and we've been asking INSETA for this information. They've provided us with some of it, not all of it, and it's ongoing. And from what we have seen and can see, there are serious questions which the Auditor General needs to go and start digging, and everybody else, by the way, any oversight entity on INSETA. So the first one is the big question we've got is this: their office lease. In 2022, they moved to new offices. They cut short a lease that they had with at their premises at the time. They came up with a reason to do so. That was lost in court. It was challenged in court by the landlord of their previous lease, and INSETA lost that case. It is potentially a claim of about 15 million rand that you and I are going to have to pick up if that issue is pushed. Question you've got to ask is why, if you've got 2 to 3 years left in a lease, do you want to force an issue, move your offices at a lease which is similar in its per square meter cost, which is a concern, and especially just after COVID, when you could have got office space, good, decent office space in the area that they are leasing now, at around, if you negotiate hard, around 100 rand a square meter. Well, they're paying a lot more than that. And the next question is, you've got to ask yourself why. Because with that new lease, they had to move their equipment, their servers, their desks. They have to refit the new offices. There's a lot of cost there. Our view is that cost of a move of the size that they were doing probably shouldn't have cost more than 2 to 3 million rand, especially when the landlord gives you refit costs as well and contributes to some of the drywalling and the work that you have to do in a new office for a 5-year lease. Anybody will tell you that. Well, guess what? INSETA gave a contract to a company with one director with no history, from what we can see, of doing this type of work. Yes, they had a couple of small contracts, cleaning contracts and so forth. So one director, small company, very little detail can be found about them, and they win this tender to move their offices less than 10 kilometers and do the fit out and the cabling at a cost of 14 million rand. Let that sink in. 14 million rand this company wins this tender for. Imagine what you can build with 14 million rand. So we're going to go through all the information, all the tender docs. We need to get all this information. They say they've given it to us. They tell the minister they've given this information to us. They haven't given us all the information. So we're still waiting for it. From what we've seen, there are big question marks. Another tender that we must talk to you about at INSETA is the data cleaning tender. Now, a couple of years ago, a company called HV Holdings won this tender. It's a 18 million rand tender to clean the data of INSETA. Now, normally companies have their own, and INSETA does have its own skills and staff in this regard to do this work. But let's say it's too big and it's technical and they need assistance and external help. Well, HV Holdings got that tender for 18 million rand. Think about that. An 18 million rand tender to clean INSETA's data. And then what we hear, 5 months into that contract, a letter, a one-page letter, gets sent to INSETA from HV Holdings. Sorry, due to financial constraints, we have to pull out of this tender. We can't do this work anymore. That's crazy, isn't it? I mean, firstly, it's an excessive price. If you and I got a tender for 18 million rand to do data cleaning, it's not complex. It's not a bank. You got a tender for 18 million rand, and now you have financial constraints. You get the money, you borrow the money because there's a lot of money to be made in an 18 million rand tender. So something doesn't sound right. And INSETA have now gone and put this tender out again. And following on that one-page letter that their service provider who's won this tender and 5 months later says, no, sorry, we can't do it because we've got these financial constraints, INSETA responds to them with also a one-pager, 3 items. No problem, thank you. Good luck with your endeavors going forward. Seriously? This is our money that's being spent. What happened? Why, after 5 months, did they pull out? Why did they have financial constraints in the beginning? And there's another big twist to this issue. HV Holdings is also a service provider in skills development to INSETA. So there's a massive conflict there. If I am providing skills development services to you, and I tender to clean up your data, well, there's data that I've put into that system as well that might need cleaning up. So there's a lot of questions around that one. And the final issue we've got with them, and there's more, unfolding this issue, is the MIS tender and the ERP systems tender that was issued to QI Solutions. Now, we asked INSETA for this information over a year ago. They're still giving us nothing on that one. They tell everybody they've given us data, all the information we want on these other 3 PI applications, but they haven't given us all of the information there. But a year ago, a year prior to these latest PI applications, we asked them, tell us about this QI Solutions, these 2 tenders that they got, one for 1.5 million, that's the MIS system, Management Information System, and the ERP system, is a 14.5 million rand contract given to QI Solutions in around about 2022. And we've had nothing, no information on that one. And it's very important we get it because QI Solutions got tenders, similar tenders at a few other SETAs for very similar work. And there's a lot of dots that need to be joined there. And INSETA are not providing us with that information a year later. So lots of question marks. And I guess I just want to round up by saying this, that we don't ask this information willy-nilly. We don't have personal vendettas against the accounting authorities or the board members. By the way, the board just refused to meet with us after we put all of these issues to them. We really want to engage with them so that they can gather enough information to hold people to account. That's what their role is as a board, to have this type of oversight. They refuse to meet with us. We go to the AGMs. They refuse to ask our questions or answer any questions. There's just so much smoke and mirrors and barriers to get information out of INSETA. And you've got to ask yourself the question, why? Why is there this lack of transparency? Why is there this gross expenditure that takes place and this maladministration when we want the information, it's very difficult to get it. And it is excessive. And if you're an accounting authority of an organization like INSETA, your role is to spend this money, our money, the public's money, prudently. You need to look after it. You need to save money. You don't need to waste money. The fact that you've got it doesn't give you the right to waste it. And if the public asks you, tell us what you're doing with our money, and you make it difficult for us to get this information, then we smell a rat, and we are seriously concerned. But I want to cross over to this interview now that I had with Dr. Kershen Pillay, as I said a couple of weeks ago. Listen to the turmoil, listen to the conduct, listen to his story of how his company has been decimated and literally had to shut down its operations because it was asking similar questions. And only because it was a service provider and INSETA had power over them, because they have to accredit all their service providers. Listen to what they did to GIFS, the Graduate Institute of Financial Services. Thank you, Dr. Kershen Pillay, for joining me today. We've met with you some time ago, heading up GIFS, the Graduate Institute of Financial Sciences, a service provider to the insurance and the finance industry in training and development. And what we found is that in the work that Rudy is talking about in our uncovering the corruption and the maladministration that takes place in higher education, your story, very interesting to the work we do, but very concerning in what has happened to you, your organization, your staff, and to some of the staff inside the industry and inside CETA who have been pushed out and just caught up in this mess. But let's start with where this all started with you. A little bit about GIFS and then what happened.
Well, thank you very much for this, and thank you for picking up stories like this that matter, and being the voice of the voiceless. And that's pretty much how we felt. We felt very voiceless. How it started is GIFS is a thought leader and a leader in financial services education and has long endured the respect of our sector. And we started to find that things were amiss, but we could not really put our finger on it. And we assumed that these sort of issues are probably very easily fixable. Little did we realize that what lied behind was far more sinister in terms of what Rudy and yourself were mentioning. It started with our learners not receiving their certificates. So we work in a highly regulated environment where in order for you to offer financial advice, you need to be certified to do so. So now imagine these individuals are studying hard, sacrificing their time. Their employers are paying money for them to be educated to get this qualification. Years are passing by and they're not getting their qualification. They're losing their jobs.
Really?
CETAs are mandated to create employment. But what we're finding is it's actually being the reason why these individuals are being debarred or not being able to actually receive commission because they are not an authorized representative. And we continuously try to engage with the CETAs on this particular matter. And we were fobbed off, and we liked it to maybe being admin issues or the staff not being as committed or disenchanted. Little did we realize that there was more to that. We then started to raise those issues. And with us raising those issues and raising those concerns, we became public enemy number one.
To who?
To the CETA.
To the insurance CETA.
To the insurance CETA, simply because we were highlighting their inefficiencies.
Right. So you're trying to get the certificates for these learners who you've been training up, who are asking you, putting you under pressure, I need my certificate, I can't get a job, I can't get promoted, I can't get my commission. And you're trying to raise what is a very valid issue and concern with the CETA, and they're not listening, they don't want to listen, and now they start pushing back at you.
Correct. So more than pushing back at us, so what we had done is we did this report, and we shared it with the COO of the time and the ETQA manager at the time. The
ETQA?
Meaning the quality assurance manager.
At INSETA.
At INSETA. They realized their errors, their mistakes, and started to fix it. And it was a lot of management that we had to put into this just to get people to do their jobs and certify and quality assure the learners. Right. What we also started to find was the INSETA would misrepresent and would say that, oh no, it is your training provider that is a problem. It's definitely not us.
Okay.
And then they told us issues that, oh, it was a DHET issue. It was a system issue. Your data is incorrect. Trying to pass the buck on to the innocent skills development providers.
Yeah.
What we then started to notice that the quality assurance was getting worse and worse, to the point where we were identifying learners receiving certificates, although they did not qualify for the programs.
Wow. So there are people that shouldn't get certificates that were getting certificates.
And it's very dangerous because remember, we are in financial service, we're in advice giving roles.
Yeah.
You are getting a certificate to advise someone on how to insure their car, on how to insure their home. And if those big assets are not insured properly, and it's your time to claim, what would happen?
And if they're not qualified, they're giving bad advice. This has financial implications and ramifications for both the insurance companies as well as individuals.
And more than that, we know that we are trying to encourage savings and retirement in our country. And imagine at retirement you find out that, hey,
this advice you got was bad.
Wrong. So what are you going to do now some 30, 40 years later? How do you recover from that?
So it's very important that the administrative processes of these CETAs is 100% above board, and that we know that people are getting qualifications are qualified, and those who aren't should never even be in the system.
Correct.
Wow.
And then I think for raising these issues, we became a thorn in the side of the INSETA. And if you look at our sector, it was common knowledge that people were not being certified timelessly. Yeah. It also became common knowledge that where we said, these are the learners that the first time we picked up a fake certificate, we shared it with the INSETA. And we said, okay, it was an admin error. Luckily, we've caught it. They will put systems in place to fix it. But when it happened again and again, we were just given the silent treatment.
So, Dr. Pillay, you started raising these issues with the INSETA. These are real concerns. Instead of inviting you in and saying, thank you, let's fix the system, show us what you've picked up and sort this out, you received this backlash. What happened?
So as part of the backlash, we received a letter to say that we have been de-accredited.
De-accredited, what does that mean?
De-accredited means like you're losing your driver's license.
Yeah.
So they are de-accrediting us, so we're losing our license to educate.
So your business that's built around educating can no longer do this for the service providers, for the customers out there, the big insurance companies. Literally, they stop you from doing business.
Overnight.
Overnight. On what basis did they de-accredit you?
So they told her, they said they did an independent investigation, which we were not allowed to participate in.
Okay.
They told us that we do not have a right to be heard.
Really?
And that it is their discretion whether or not we can participate in this investigation.
Okay.
And then after they came up...
You've seen this movie before.
I've heard so.
Okay.
So now once we saw this de-accreditation, they said, okay, we're giving you X amount of time. Tell us why we shouldn't de-accredit you. So, for example, if I could break it down into simple terms, they said to me, okay, you murdered Wayne.
Yeah.
Tell us why we should not put you in jail.
Yeah.
Not giving us an opportunity to defend ourselves, etc. It's at sentencing stage now.
Yeah.
We are brought in to give some advice.
Yeah.
To which we appealed the process and we went through this whole rigmarole, but we were still pushing them on the fake certification. They promised to give us feedback, etc. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, when our offices closed,
when was that?
On the 15th of December 2023,
yeah.
They were supposed to give us an answer on that date as to why they issued fake certificates.
Yeah.
Instead of that, we got a letter to say that we are from the CEO of INSETA, that we are
this is Gugum Kize.
Yeah. That we are de-accredited with immediate effect, and she wishes us well in our future endeavors.
Wow. So just over a year and a few months ago, you get this letter just as the industries are shutting down for Christmas. They're not going to engage with you anymore on these fake certificates and so forth. You can no longer do business in this industry. You are de-accredited. And they start informing the entire industry about this.
And so when we first got this, it was the wrong accreditation number on it. So we thought this was it's a mistake, etc. Now you must understand, it was the 15th of December.
Yeah.
Our offices were closed. It was only by chance that we saw this email the very next day.
Right.
And when we got this, we were trying to get a hold of the INSETA to figure out,
what's going on.
You obviously made a mistake. Please go and rectify it, because we don't know what you're talking about. And no response from the CETAs. Then we get calls from clients, from stakeholders to saying, what is going on? We've just received an email to say that you'll have been de-accredited with immediate effect.
Very clever timing. As everyone's shutting down, all your clients get this letter from them to say they can't use you anymore.
And how do we get legal counsel so late?
Yeah.
Because the INSETA is not responding to us.
Yeah.
So we then go on. We every client, it's published on their website.
Wow.
We then go in and we try to get this matter heard. So we put it into court.
So you went quickly to court to have this decision interdicted, I imagine.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
We went to court on the 4th of January.
Right.
And the court ruled in our favor.
Okay.
And
so
said
you
that,
got a court ruling to say they cannot de-accredit you.
Correct, and that we must be reinstated immediately. Right. And
did they reinstate you immediately?
No, they ignored it.
They just ignored that court judgment.
Yeah, the court order was completely ignored. And they had told the public that they've appealed this matter.
Yeah.
And obviously, most of us don't really understand law. We don't understand how it works. Mm-hmm. And when you're seeing a regulator against an education provider and that they've got an appeal against this matter, so maybe there's some substance to it. Yeah. So eventually what had happened was they applied for leave to appeal.
Yeah.
And when they applied for that leave to appeal, our judgment, that leave to appeal was declined.
Was declined. How quickly did the judge decline?
It was heard in April.
Yeah.
So it was a lot of time.
3 months have gone into 2024. You can't do business anymore. Your customers say, well, you can't train for us. A judge then comes back and declines their leave to appeal very quickly, by the way, in the normal scheme of things. And what did they do then?
So they refused to follow that court order.
Really?
And they said that they're not going to recognize it. And they did just that. They did not recognize the court order. And they said that they are going to respond or appeal this to the SCA, the Supreme Court of Appeal. And they obviously understand the system.
Yeah.
And the Supreme Court of Appeal will hear it whenever. And right now, it is actually a moot matter.
Yeah.
It actually doesn't matter. It has no bearing. However, the damage caused by not adhering to the first court order, not adhering to the second court order, and eventually which resulted in INSETA receiving a damages claim, which is 1/3 of the CETA budget.
Wow. So I want to go into this, Dr. Pillay. They ignore the court order. They say they're appealing it. This was what we call Stalingrad tactics, filibustering. They just abused the system. In the meantime, your business has stopped doing business. All your clients, and you've been doing business with the top insurance companies in this country, have been told they cannot do business with you. You employ a lot of people. Your business has now come to a grinding halt. And if I were in your shoes, I would do exactly that. You are submitting a business damages claim against them.
Yeah, we've already submitted the business damages claim.
Millions and millions of rands, I can imagine. I don't want to necessarily get from you what that number is. If you want to say it, you can. But my concern as a taxpayer now is that if you're saying it's a third of their annual income, which is annual income 600 odd million rand a year, so this must be over 200 million rand. That's a cost that I have to pick up, that the taxpayer has to pick up, and that to us is the outcome of gross abuse of power, of systems manipulation. And it's just shocking to hear that you've had to go through this. I know that you've also engaged with people who've been pushed out of that organization, whistleblowers. Is that true? People who've stood their ground, people that didn't want to play the games that these people inside that run these institutions try and play to manipulate the system. People have lost their jobs.
Yeah, and when it's more than that. If you look at it, this is being taken away from upskilling our country.
Yeah.
It's taken away from creating employment. It's deviating from the SETA's mandate completely. And for it to have hit us as a skills development provider, for it to have hit the learners, it shows the systemic rot. It also shows the governance failures at every level.
Yeah.
Like I heard you mentioning QI solutions. For an ordinary person, it just looks like a tender. Oh, the money has gone through. But let's look at it for what it is.
Yeah.
Employees were complaining about the system that was implemented. Employees were forced, as you all have heard on national television, employees were forced to do the work of those service providers that was now what they heard was based in Nigeria.
Yeah.
To do that work, and if they didn't, they would lose their jobs because your employer took it to the INSETA management, took it to the INSETA Exco, took it to the INSETA board, put it onto whistleblowing hotlines, and they did not care. When the system or the administrative team or whomever is responsible for it saw that they could get away with it with their employees, it then went to their external stakeholders. So anyone who complained about them or whistle blew about them,
just pushed aside.
You are using the information that you were receiving on the whistleblowing hotline, which was supposed to be anonymous, where we thought we had anonymity. You took the information from the whistleblowing hotline and you weaponized it against your employees. You weaponized it against your skills development providers.
Right.
And the reason why we are screaming is we are screaming for our country. We do not want to see another NASFAS example, simply because the financial services sector is a vital part of the GDP of our country. If we do not upskill, if we do not future skill, properly utilizing all its resources, we're going to be in trouble.
Yeah.
As you can see, the information is not forthcoming. Misinformation is spread. When you look at the whistleblowers, whether it's us as an STB, whether it's employees or other STPs, their names are blackened, they are tarnished, just to ensure that these individuals do not garner any favor or any momentum.
Yeah, and I can imagine, Kershen, you know, you've got these good relationships with your customers out there who are worried when they read your name and your organization's name being dragged into this. And I think you've articulated it very, very well and positioned what really is a systemic crisis in the sectoral education training authorities. So if I just wrap up now, I think what you've heard from Dr. Kershen Pillay and from Rudy today is so much of what has gone wrong in this country. There's these modus operandi play out, by the way, in so many departments. What we have to do as civil society and as just ordinary citizens is get behind people like Kershen Pillay, get behind the whistleblowers, get behind so many of the people who stand their ground, whose lives become really decimated and livelihoods, and it's just shocking to listen to these stories. And you know, we hear it and we see it every day at OUTA, and we're not surprised, but we are saddened, and it makes us more resolved to get to the bottom and deal with these things. And what really does move us is when there is a shift. And the shift that we've experienced in meeting with Minister Nkobane is a positive one. And we really do implore on her and the DG and the people in the higher education sector. It's time to clean up. This is the opportunity. The boards can be changed. You know, when we were fobbed off by that board at INSETA a number of times after writing to them, quite frankly, we believe there is no oversight when the board refuses to listen to civil society, wants to bring to their attention the stuff that they can use to hold their executives of those SETAs to account, to put them through disciplinary hearings and to have them dismissed, and not only dismissed, but have them declared delinquent in their roles and have them charged with criminal conduct if there is criminal conduct to be proven. This is what doesn't happen enough. We hope that this is the time for change. We hope that this is going to happen now at the various SETAs. And we hope that there's going to be accountability and transparency. And we are here to help the Minister of Higher Education to do this work, to start cleaning up. And if we can get this right, I think this Minister is going to leave a legacy of an institution that was wasting billions of taxpayers' money, turned around and start to see the flow of good development, skills development, uplifting the skills of the youth, and using our skills development levies for their intended purpose. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Thank you, Kershen. Thank you, Rudy, for your input today. This is important that we get this out. This is important that the whole insurance industry, finance industry, your clients and others watch this. Boards of these SETAs watch this video and understand what's going on. We have to clean up the rot. Thank you.